And we're still on a Game of Thrones, and we have read John 7, a.k.a. John meets a zombie. Josh, how you doing
fights
today?
a zombie. I'm doing good, Dan. Hello, everybody out there who've read this chapter with us, hopefully. Is anybody reading along? That'd be fun.
I know some folk have said they're reading along. I'm not sure how many people are, but yeah, it'd be very cool if they read along.
Yeah.
Because we're going to personally bring literary analysis back into mainstream. We're going to go national with this, and it's going to be a huge thing to set off. We're going to teach people to love to read.
Con of Thrones next year, there will be a panel. Literacy is back.
I'd do it. Anyway, John 7. We only read one chapter because I was busy.
Yep. That was a good chapter.
You think that was a good chapter?
Yeah.
What were overall thoughts? Hit me with a thought.
Well, so straight away, just the whole, I mean, we have to talk about the end of the chapter first, because that's the most exciting thing. I mean, there was things in there like John's learning more about the Ned Stark treason narrative.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
And we find out where the black hand came from, or the hand that the ghost had, which actually ties into the end of the chapter, the whites. So the zombie fight. And it was actually a little terrifying reading it. It was very descriptive.
I wrote down this bit, like where John is, the whole chapter was about, so they go out in the forest, they find some dead Night's Watchmen, possibly Benjen Stark's men. They bring them back. They don't know yet that they're going to rise in the middle of the night and seek vengeance on the living. And but one does, and John tussles with it, and it is a pretty terrifying fight. It's when John opened his mouth to scream, the white jammed its black corpse fingers into John's mouth. Gagging, he tried to shove it off, but the dead man was too heavy. Its hand forced itself farther down his throat, icy cold, choking him. Like, not only is that just like that's horrible to think about. I haven't seen that really done in other zombie movies. Like, I've watched my share.
Yeah.
But that's a new take, trying to shove the hand into the mouth. It's
like
spooky.
a new take on fighting in general. Like, it's the idea that you're up against this undead zombie nasty looking thing is terrifying enough, but just the act of it like trying to shove its hand in your mouth is like a fighting tactic is something that I've never
it's
really
so violative.
Yeah, and like I could almost like when I was reading it like taste it in my mouth, like some like chalky ice. Like I don't know what zombie fingers taste like, but I would imagine it's probably like cold and
icy cold choking him. Hey, that's good writing. If you can feel it in your throat when the zombie's choking Jon Snow, that's good writing.
Right, and it was just like very uncomfortable to read. Not in like ooh, I want to stop reading, but like in a visceral way. It's not the first time it's happened in the book too. There's been other instances here where it's George R. R. Martin's been so descriptive.
Found some unique detail.
Yeah,
and it's good because I mean zombies are in a way they're kind of played out almost. Like there's been so many, and you have to find like a new angle on them, and it seems like he does.
Yeah.
By the way, Chantel asked, anybody know when the new season's going to start? Nobody knows, Chantel. We're all just waiting. Let's go back to the start of the chapter.
Yeah.
So it starts when John and Sam and just the Night's Watchmen are all following Ghost and his dead hand to find these dead Night's Watchmen corpses.
Yep.
And they find them. I like this one line where John's looking at the corpses. And they're probably Benjen Stark's men. Benjen's nowhere to be found. My uncle's men, John thought numbly. He remembered how he'd pleaded to ride with them. God, I was such a green boy back then, which I kind of liked because it's been like 3 months since like the last time when saw Benjen, and he's still pretty green. But it rang true because I mean, when you're young and cocky like that, you think like, oh, 3 months ago was ages ago. Like it doesn't change that much. I think. And Martin plays with that when he sees the bodies and like he can't handle it almost. John could feel his breakfast churning in his belly, but he pressed his lips together and made himself look at the second body. Which I mean, how hard can you really be if your job is to kill wildlings and zombies and you can't stand the sight of one? So he still has a ways to go. Yeah. But I like that he thinks of himself as like grizzled now. I think it's a good character beat.
It's like the Stand By Me or whatever. They see a dead body and it's like, nah. Boys became men that day. It's like John grew up when he saw the dead
drive a car. Anyway, they go on. Sam, proving his worth, points out that it's weird that there's no blood on the scene. And just the whole thing is pretty eerily written. Like we have the things like the dogs and the horses not liking them, a classic zombie bit or just supernatural bit. And the movie's like where the dog starts barking because there's some kind of, it always happens. There's no exception here. Although what'd you think of this whole bit where they're going out beyond the wall and finding the stuff. The tomb, the stuff, plot points.
It was kind of a lot like the end of the chapter in that it was the writing really set
Real
the
quick,
mood
though,
there.
just Lauren Groth asked, what book and chapter are you on? Lauren, we are on A Game of Thrones, John 7, when John meets his first white.
Yep.
Okay, go on.
No, but it's like it really set the mood. Like you talk about the zombie or the white, I should call them zombies, but sticking fingers down John's throat and everything like that. You could almost taste it. Yeah. And same here. It was like very chilled. Like you could feel like the hair rising on your arms a little bit, the goosebumps, because you feel it's a very cold setting that George R. R. Martin has. Very, like you said, eerie, mysterious. It could almost like, I mean, I know we see it on the show, but as I was reading it, this is like the most vividly imagined chapter that I have had, where it's just everything's on that like blue tint, and it's like the white snow, and you can see like the fog and the air blowing, and it's just there's, you know, you got the dead bodies, but everything around it, the world, Earth is just dead. So like that's kind of like a very like poignant writing, I think.
I'm not sure if you've noticed this, but like of everything I've ever read, like Martin has a great way of vividly describing cold.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know like where he finds the words, but like I remember his descriptions of cold more than I could do other things. Like the way it seeps inside you, eats it from the inside out, the iciness. He's very good at it. It's useful because a lot of his story deals with cold. So just I like that part of it. Anyway, they trek him back, and the other big part of this chapter, apart from the zombie fight, is Jon Snow grappling with the news that Ned Stark has been taken prisoner. One quick point, I always make this point, but I mean, the last 3 chapters were Ned gets arrested, and then Sansa and Arya deal with the aftermath. Yeah. 1 chapter later, the Wall already knows, and they're working through the consequences. Again, I love that. I love that this is pretty snappy, that we're not wasting too much time with in-between stuff. Happens in chapter 1, we get the consequence in chapter 2. That's nice. And again, it won't happen later books, but I just keep foreshadowing that. How was John feeling about this? When he hears the news, how does he react?
It was a mixture of, at least the way I read it, denial. He's like, "There's no way. Like this is my father," or so he thinks. Like this is my father figure, I guess.
An honorable kind of guy.
Yeah, there's no way that he could have done this.
And recall, in the story he's getting, is that Ned tried to usurp the throne and take it. It's not the real thing that we saw, where it's much more complicated and nuanced.
Which I did like, because we talk about the North being so far up and word traveling. So in the one chapter, we have Ned and all this stuff happening, and now the story is already... It's
starting to morph.
Yeah, he's trying to overthrow the throne and all this kind of stuff. And you can see, even though they're not in the chapters, Cersei and all of the inner workings that she has.
Littlefinger, everybody.
Yeah, you want to talk about the cold, just kind of like going across Westeros all the way to the north, and like
very nice.
I like that. It was very, again, with George R. R. Martin with the subtle details. It's like, oh, okay, because it's like we're in John's head. Nothing to do with anything in King's Landing. Hasn't been to King's Landing.
No way of
no
knowing.
clue. But in the back of your mind, I can imagine like a Family Guy cutaway or something, like Cersei and everybody doing everything, getting the word out, and then cut back to John. It's already reached him at the wall, and then it's like a game of telephone. Like how many times has the story changed as it's gone from the south to the north?
Right.
So
well, I mean, who's writing the letters? It's Cersei. The people who won. They're not putting. Ned nobly tried to expose my incest, and then they're putting their version of the story, which is he's terrible, he's treasonous, and we put him in jail. Like that's the version they're going to sell. Right. Obviously, it's a whole, the old cliche history written by the victors. Like that's what's happening here. They're trying to make the narrative. It's like in the show, and we remember that play Arya watched.
Yep.
And it's just the version of what happened in King's Landing, but again, the Lannister version of it, where the Lannisters are all really nice and it's a treacherous buffoon. That's beginning, and that's unfortunately how Ned's going to be remembered. Yeah, for worse, I guess. Anyway, he is very conflicted. How could they think his father was a traitor? Had they all gone mad, Lord Eddard Stark would never dishonor himself. Would he? He fathered a bastard, a small voice whispered inside him. Where is the honor in that? And your mother, what of her? You'll not even speak her name. So he is a conflicted bastard.
Yeah, the angel and the devil on the shoulder. Like, he's my dad. It's like, but he's your bastard father. It's like...
He nasty. Anyway, so the Lord Commander Mormont calls him in, and he tells him to not do anything stupid. What's he talking about there? Like, what stupid thing might John do?
I thought it would be something like leave and try to fix things.
I did too, actually, when I first read it.
The fixing it, I think, is just more or less not letting your emotions get to you and not letting this thing become bigger than what you are, because it is something he can't help. This is all the way in the South. Whether or not he thinks his father or Ned did this, didn't do this, how it feels he's being treated, whether you should believe it or not, how people around him interpret it, which is another big part of the chapter, that shouldn't affect his job because he's part of the Night's Watch.
Exactly.
That is his duty. He needs to be focused on that and that alone. So that kind of mentorship going back and forth there.
Yeah, I mean, he's trying to be nice to John. Actually, everyone's trying to be nice to John. I thought it was kind of sweet the way, like, John is kind of going about his business, but everybody knows.
Yeah.
Like, everybody knows what happened to his dad.
Well, then there's Thorne throughout Sir Alistair Thorne.
Most people are nice.
Most people.
Like, you know, we get this whole little sequence where he's in, like, the mess hall, and the Hob, the cook, gives him an extra helping of venison stew, which is cute.
Yeah.
Sam offers to pray with him beyond the wall, even though Sam's terrified of everything beyond the wall, especially beyond the wall. I like this, like, one of the guards, like, we don't even have a name, just tells him to be strong, which it's just like, it's hang in there, kid, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So everyone's trying to be really nice to him, which I actually think is kind of nice.
Yeah.
Like the Night's Watch looking out for their own, with the exception of Alistair Thorne.
Of course.
I think, what does he say? He says, like, oh, not just a bastard, but a traitor's bastard.
Yep.
At which point, John does the opposite of what Lord Brandon tells him to do. Does something stupid, attacks him, Alistair Thorne, and then he gets locked in a cell. Which is kind of set up for the whole zombie portion of the episode, where he has to kind of break out. And they have the bit where, like, again, the dogs, they love using dogs. Like, the dog's, like, clawing at the door. It's like, what's up, boys? It's creepy. And then we get into that whole other very supernatural, very strange part of the chapter, which I thought was, which, by the way, we leave unfinished.
Yeah.
Do you like that? Like, the end of the chapter is just John throws this, like, ball of flaming curtains at it, and I think the last line is like, please let it burn, and then we cut away.
Yeah. I got the impression of, not to keep bringing it back to a Family Guy cutaway, but every time Peter fights the chicken, and then he's walking away, and the chicken's just dead, and then it'll, like, open its eye. And it's like at the end of a movie, like, you know, the bad guy's not really dead. I got that feeling from it here, even though it's not that played up, but that whole, is it dead? Is it not dead? Is this the end? So I like that we ended on a little bit of an open-endedness.
Sure.
It's because it is almost a greater theme to, these aren't going anywhere. These whites and the White Walkers and all that, it's not going anywhere. It's going to be a big thing. So kind of not killing this one is metaphorically being like, there's more to come. So I liked it.
Yeah. It's also like, I mean, this one white did a lot of damage.
Yeah.
And, like, knowing that we're going to have an army of them, it's an intense way. It's a lot to live up to.
Yeah.
I had another point, but I completely forgot it. Yeah, whites, they're bad. They're scary. Before we sign off, I'd like to read a bit on page 558, where John remembers stuff old Nan used to tell him about the long night. And I was reading it, and I'm like, hey, old Nan described the spinoff. Because this is the long night, the Age of Heroes, basically.
Okay.
Is what it's going to be about. This is old Nan describing to John the first time the White Walkers came. In that darkness, the others came riding. Cold and dead they were, and they hated iron and fire and the touch of the sun, and every living creature with hot blood in its veins. Hold-fastened cities and kingdoms of men all fell before them as they moved south on pale dead horses, leading hosts of the slain. They fed their dead servants with the flesh of human children, ... and then he gets distracted. But the point is, and I was reading that like, oh, like that's what the spinoff's going to be about.
Huh.
So kudos, old Nan, for being way ahead of your time.
There you go.
And foreshadowing all that. By the way, in the comments, Wendy says they haven't aired season 7 yet, so we're talking about season 8. I'm confused. They actually have aired season 7, Wendy. Aired last year, and they're making season 8. So, for better or worse, we're on to the end. Anyway, any other thoughts on John 7? John meets a zombie?
No, it was a very visceral chapter. So
yeah, he's pretty good at that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the reason it takes long to write. He does take the time to really, I don't know, describe things in minute detail so much that you taste it in your mouth.
Yep.
Next, let's go back to 2 chapters, I think.
Okay.
We can do the next Bran, and then after that, Uh-oh, it's long. And then a Daenerys.
Ooh, back to Daenerys.
Back to Daenerys. We'll see you all here next week at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time for more Game of Thrones news, more Song of Ice and Fire discussion, and more of A Song of Dan and Josh. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you next week.